Today's number, one. One really good day. That's all it takes sometimes. And where everything aligns the way you'd want it to. One day where everyone and everything shows up, it all clicks into place, where the business moves, where your members of your family are doing well, where your health is good, where everything is as good as it can be. Exactly the way it should be. It completely changes your perspective and helps you to potentially change others' perspective. And today was that day, and I'm hoping to do that for you today as well. Today, I'm going to deliver on something I promised earlier in the week, the real sales breakdown, the real numbers, and what it takes to run a TCG business, what it actually took today, and how it ultimately relies on relationships. Something that I'm keen on, that I will continue to talk on because it is literally the net difference in success or failure in all of life. But before I get to that, my name is Ryan, and I started the TCG business with over $1 million in debt. I'm here to turn cardboard into cash and move from dire straits into distro. Every episode, I go over the challenges and successes of growing a TCG business and what I accomplished from the previous day. If watching someone grow their business in this space sounds interesting to you, hit the subscribe button and tell the algorithm you approve this message. I told you at the end of the week I'd give you the numbers. Here's what it looks like: 15 orders on TCGplayer plus one out the door on a separate deal. That was over 800 cards. It was over $400 in revenue. Now, here's the crazy part. The actual cards I sold, $11.47 in cost. $11 in cardboard into $400 in profit. That's a business in one number. And I've only been live since 12:01 Sunday morning. We already, while I've been taping this, have had 2 or 3 more orders. Now, I'm not going to include them just because I'm not going to at this point, but the reality is the business keeps churning, and that's what you want when the operation is dialed in. We sent it over to many states: Arizona, California, Texas, Utah, right from here in Northern Virginia. I'm excited about what's to come, and it will go into some of the things we're talking about later. Now, the part that nobody really likes to talk about: TCGplayer took almost $70 in fees, $11.47 in inventory, $70 in platform fees. Now, that's the cost of doing business, but that is 6 times more than the cards cost me. That is the real math of selling on a marketplace that you don't own. I'll be honest, 2 orders made about 60% of my revenue. 2 very large buyers. One great customer can make your whole week, but leaning on them, that's fragile and something I'm going to be actively working on. It's a little different on TCGplayer because you're not a market owner. You're not a brand. You're not a store unless they come to your pro store. They're looking for card optimization and who has the most cards at the right value point for them to purchase. Now, one common card sold 16 copies, and that was equal to $58 of revenue, almost 15% of my entire week off of one common card. Now, bulk opportunities move fast. The window between a card being meta relevant and the market catching up and pricing correcting is short. You have to act as fast as you can to list and price what the market needs. That is the whole edge. You miss that window and you're selling commons pricing, it commons again. Now, writing in the comments below which card you think sold the most or created the most revenue this week. I'll tell you if you're right. Then there's one trainer card. 248 copies were sold across 6 orders. I cannot genuinely express to you how I cannot keep this in stock. New sets, peak demand, that's where the volume is right now on the player base. And here's what those numbers actually mean for my business. The ability to generate this kind of return on $11 of inventory is what makes everything else possible. Every dollar that comes back is getting reinvested now into people who are going to help me run the bulk operation of the server, into infrastructure, and that helps me stop building and doing everything myself and to start building something that can scale and be done by many other people. That's the whole point of getting the listings right. It's not just revenue, it's fuel. Now, all right. Yesterday, I said I would talk a little bit about the business. Here's what we did: is 3 things. First, we ran a live stream. There were technical glitches. It's going to happen, but the content was there. The community showed up, and more importantly, we will get the community and the content to match up when I can get the glitches curbed, and it will be done right. Second, we spoke with a future business partner in the space, and now we're going to continue to help each other grow. That conversation is progressing. I'm excited to talk about where that's headed. And then third, we prepped for today's events of handing over nearly 30% of my inventory, everything from the show in the last few weeks, dropped off, and I had to do prep last night to make that possible. Here's where I'm headed, and honestly, today was the whole story of where we're going. All right, I started the morning with one of my members, what I would consider a member of the server, now a team member to my business, who is now running cards through our entire process: sifting, sorting, bricking, reporting, so that I can start delegating and focusing on what comes next. That handoff is one of the most important things I've done in this business. Now, it's pretty early in the business to be using this opportunity to delegate. I know that there are people who are going to say, how can you afford an employee, right? Well, first of all, this is not a W-2 situation. We are working in kind trade. It's a very beneficial situation for both of us. They were wonderful. They're clearly intelligent beyond. They understood and came to the door actually, and they said, "Hey, listen, I know that you're going to want to list playables, and I've been looking at what's on your pro store as well as what else is playable from the new sets." They were coming in knowing what was going to be necessary, and in fact, funny story. They knew not only that what the playables were, but they were like, "Hey, how often do people sort out the playables?" I was like, "It happens, and if that happens, we just have less things to sift through, and that's okay." She was like, "Yeah, but doesn't that kind of hurt you and from a margins or hurt you from a business perspective?" I said, "Every time that there is a lot that comes in that doesn't have playables, it means it was probably a little bit more sifted, but it also means it's a little less money that I have to work to accommodate our relationship from how I'm compensating her." And she was like, "Well, damn it," and I get that, right? Like it's almost like, well, that's the fuel that helps me, associate and compensate her. But needless to say, there's more than enough to go around, and it was just a funny part of the conversation. But what was interesting to me is that she came prepared in that way. I will also tell you today, I had several drives. I spoke with many friends in the hobby today, people who have been part of this journey from the beginning, people who feel the energy on the daily and get when the work gets heavy. I cannot overstate how much that matters, including one specific call where a friend of mine who is not that big into the space said, I'm thinking about getting into Pokemon." And I was like, "Oh, really? Why?" And he was like, "Well, it's pretty easy to find right now." I almost chuckled. I literally, this was by text. I called them and said, "What do you mean it's easy to find?" He's like, "Well, I got this pack of Journey Together." I was like, "Oh, that makes more sense. You're probably looking at Journey Together and Chaos Rising, Perfect Order, sets that aren't necessarily beloved, but I don't know that you've seen any Ascended Heroes." He's like, "I definitely don't know what that is." I said, "That's okay." I offered them a space where I said, if you're just ripping to rip, you might also want to consider something like Lorcana. Your daughter's 5. She would probably know the characters. If you're just ripping to rip and have fun, that's a great thing to rip on occasion. It has some investability if that's something you want to do. Now, I did let them know Pokemon would hold longer term value, and if that's just where they want to be, that's perfectly fine. As long as you're okay with ripping sleeves and having a good time, rip to your heart's content. And we left with this piece of good news, which is he let me know that they're pregnant, and I couldn't be more excited for them. So again, this was just layers of good right today. I got word today from yesterday's business call, and we are getting that much closer to closing on something very positive. I cannot wait to share with all of you and what that means. I met with someone today who I think is going to have a dynamic impact on the entirety of how AVA TCG runs. Terms are not quite yet finalized. We're working through that, but the outlook is exciting, and I cannot wait to share when the time is right. I had lunch with a friend and our partner in bulk. I walked away with 2 deals done as well right before launch. Every single one of these things happened because of relationship that was built over time, not as a transaction, but as a relationship. That is the whole game. The cards are just cardboard. The people are the business. Now, if you agree, if this sounds interesting to you, follow the link to the Discord and let me know what challenges or successes you've had today in the comments below. And as always, I'll see you next time. Same bad time, same bad channel.